Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, Hittner Group.com, 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. We love talking about real estate. And that call, of course, is with no cost and absolutely no obligation. 612-627-8000. Keith Reno is back in studio from his spring break down in Florida. Mike Hilborn's in the studio. We're going to chat with him in the next segment. He's got some exciting news coming up for Mike Hilborn. Okay, Calvin.
Yes, sir.
The spring break effect. Do you think there's a spring break effect in real estate?
Absolutely.
Tell me about it.
It's slow.
It's slow.
And every school district has a different one. So you're okay, next week's going to be busier. Oh, sorry, spring break.
Spring break month.
It's a whole month.
But I thought after Super Bowl is when you get rolling and the market's up.
Well, it seems to be.
Yeah, it is. It was for a while. We had a great couple, little bit of period here. And this month, I mean, no new apps this week. Slow because everybody that has money is out of the state. Us people who are back here just
trying to get some money.
Trying to shovel some coal in the furnace, keep it warm. But
inventory fell by 1.3% this week.
Really?
Yep. Inventory fell. And
so do you believe that?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
Oh, I absolutely do.
Do you not, Junior? Because you're so removed from.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think it's. It would be nice if they could streamline that deal.
Mm-hmm. And just, what do you mean by streamline?
Well, just have all the spring breaks at the same time, but think about the pressure on
airlines, all that.
Yeah, it'd be tough to do.
So it's actually
I don't
smart
know if that's
do it,
why it's like that, but I don't think it has anything to do with the travel industry. Why people's spring breaks are where they are.
Yeah, it's staggered though.
Yeah.
So 9.9% of the current market is as coming soon.
9.9.
Almost 10% of the market of all the active listings are coming soon.
So it's coming.
It's coming.
All right.
That's a huge number. So that would be another indication, I guess it would say, is that people recognize that spring break is here. So rather than putting properties on the market active and have you burn up market time when nobody's here, and like you said, all the people with money are gone. Mm-hmm. So we'll just have it be coming soon so they can see it. I put a property on that's coming soon on Monday. What was it? Last week.
Okay.
Because I wanted just to go through this weekend.
Yep.
And no showings. Nothing scheduled. I wasn't going to have showing, but you get scheduled. Nothing scheduled. And then this week, all of a sudden, boom.
There it goes.
Just because it's the week it's coming on.
It's the week it's coming on.
Like the whole coming soon vibe is totally different than when we first started doing it. Because we had a big change in the industry. We've had a couple big changes in the industry over the last couple of years. And one of them was the removal of pocket listings and all that stuff, and I guess they're chatting about how that's going to change moving forward.
Right.
Whether it's a benefit to the seller, and that's the whole conversation. But a pocket listing is one where you don't publish it publicly on the multiple listing service. You hold it, but you can still market it to internally to other brokerages. They said, no, you can't do that anymore. You can only market pocket listings to your own brokerage. It has to be
okay,
only
so I was going to say, I know a
internal
realtor that
to
does
your own,
that.
Yeah,
you
can do it.
And so you can do it.
And so then who's policing that? People still, you can have a conversation individually with somebody. If somebody inquires to you, there's all these different little nuanced rules with it.
And that whole rule system clearly favors the big brokers.
Yeah.
So if
for sure,
absolutely.
Honestly, I've won listings because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have conversations and you're up against some other company that's a small company and say, hey, part of our process is this. Like, here's our process, and part of that is the brokerage. We're with Coldwell Banker Realty. Coldwell Banker is the largest brokerage here. Mm-hmm. If not, you're combined with Edina Realty and Remax, of course, the three largest brokerages here. And part of the listing process is that kind of ramping up or coming soon, or when you're preparing the listing.
And
we will
everybody
market
has
internally.
preparing the listing. Everyone,
For sure. There's always that time.
There's always that time, and so why would you waste it by not doing anything?
Right.
And the seller, clearly our client at that point is the seller. Do you think the seller maybe wants you to share with some people that the property is going to be coming on the market?
Of course they do. They want to.
Of
I mean,
course
they
they
want
do.
to talk to their people, and
Yeah.
technically, they're not. So your client is not to publish or market their own property. Tell people like they can't be doing that.
Yeah.
So
it's just really a stupid rule.
It's an odd deal. Anyhow, the point of all that, the coming soon strategy that we first started doing, you could put a house on the market for 3 weeks coming soon, and you would get showing activity happening, especially in a severely reduced inventory environment when we have a little bit more available. Even though I still believe we have low inventory, but there is more available. The coming soon strategy is, to me, it's the week of now. People are looking at going out and shopping, and like a Monday, Tuesday coming soon. If you put it on the previous weekend, well, they're not going to schedule showings. They're scheduled showings for this weekend. So it's just changed a little bit. I still think there's a strategy there, and it's beneficial. Just kind of shortens the time frame up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that we have some preliminary numbers now through March. They'll be firmed up better this week because there's some because the first was right after a weekend, and so some of the offices got to get their stuff turned in, the things that closed at the end of March. But right now we're looking at the listings, year-to-date listings, which is probably a good number, is up 2.7%.
Okay. Listings is up.
Listings are up. Sales, closed sales, are down 2.4%. So that's a
5%.
that's a 5% swing there in activity.
What do you think from that?
Well, the market slowed.
Okay.
The market is not as robust as it was a couple of years ago.
Okay.
It's slowed. Now that will come down a little bit, I think, after some more. There's still about 100 properties that were showing as pending that are still showing as pending. So they'll get into the sold column and knock that number down a little bit. But it's still, the market has definitely crested, and we're at a little bit of it's not really a decline in terms of the market, and the prices sure as heck haven't declined.
Right.
At all. And I think Keith is right. We are still in a pretty short supply of inventory in any one category. There's all across the board, there are properties to look at. All across the board, there are
price ranges.
They're all price ranges. There are properties to look at.
All areas of the Twin Cities.
Pretty
the
much
11 county,
everywhere. I mean, I tell you what, I'm working with people now, literally
all over.
All over.
Yeah.
And there's stuff out there. Some of it is not very nice.
Yeah.
And that's what's sitting there. So when you say, oh, there's stuff to look at, yeah, there's this dump over, in Roseville that you can go look at, along with everybody else that's been on the market for 90 days.
Yeah.
What's your days on? What are you seeing days on market right now?
Pretty steady, 27, just under 30 days on market. Yeah. And remember, that's the average, so that means that there's some properties that have been
That
out
means
there.
things are moving actually pretty fast.
Yeah,
right.
A $400,000 split level in XYZ suburb is going to sell on a weekend if it's good, clean, move-in ready.
Yep. Nice homes sell fast.
Yeah, and so I just think it's still it's a good market.
Yeah.
It is a good market. I think you're going to see costs continue to creep up as we have such demand, and I harp on this all the time, but I really believe it. We have a huge demand on hard goods, on supplies, sheetrock, electrical, concrete, all of that, because we're rebuilding California with the fires. We're rebuilding Florida and the southeast with all the hurricanes. There's just stuff going on all over the place. Now we got tornadoes that come ripping through the south. So there's lots of roofing and whatnot to be redone.
What about tariffs that are going into effect this week? With the whole, what was it, Freedom Day? What was the
unknown? I think it's still
Freedom Day,
Freedom Day.
Independence Day.
I
don't forget what it was.
I think
Someday.
The tariff effect
Tariff
on real
effect,
estate.
The tariff effect. Yeah, it's more of a scare tactic.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as our market, it hasn't been long.
But
we
what
won't
about
even,
like building
we won't-
supplies, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, in 60 days, talk to us. Q2.
Canadian
Okay,
lumber.
Yeah, we're not going to feel a thing. I mean, there's inventory in the pipeline right now. So you may have some people, like the commodities market, may price it up on future
On
fear,
futures, yep.
on futures and whatnot. But the market that's in the inventory that's in the house right now, I mean, that's already been committed. I mean, the builders have made, they've purchased and they've made a commitment to whatever.
So it's the
is.
new stuff coming on. Do you wonder if builders will start to increase that just because they don't know? The conversation we had with Todd Pliff last week from Custom One Homes,
Right.
not knowing for sure
Right.
where the prices would be.
But then you're asking a builder to speculate on lumber costs, and it's just like we're not in the lumber cost speculation business. We're in the building business, so we're going to just build it and price it.
Yep.
As it is, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I think we'll have a lot of speculation to talk about in the next segment with Mike Hilborn.
I do too.
Well,
Excited for that. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. We're going to head out to break. Give us a call at 612-627-8000. That number again is 612-627-8000, or log on to hittnergroup.com.
Hey, welcome back. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. Thanks for sticking around. Hittnergroup.com, Hittner Group, all one word. Hittnergroup.com, 612-627-8000. Mike Hilborn.
morning, guys.
Morning. I got a question for you before we roll into your political campaign.
Yeah.
Mayor Mike.
So what do you do when during this time of the year we had a couple of these wet, heavy snowfalls, like 3 inches or something like that, each of them in our front. I go out this morning, or yesterday morning actually. Sheila came running all excited. They shoveled. She didn't expect that they would have shoveled my snow surface. So what do you are you still active when we have these snowfalls and stuff? Do you still send crews out?
we're not really shoveling. We're salting.
Yeah.
But it's melting.
Yeah.
So fast. I mean, it's not accumulating to any depth at all.
We used to. I used to do a lot of this work when we had the garden centers.
Right.
And March was, we're through March, but even through this time of the year, it was always a challenge. We found it a challenge to get paid, just because of that. You'd have this sometimes 6-7 inch
right.
heart attack snowfall.
Yeah.
And then the phone would be blowing up. To come
Get out here.
Get out here. Get out
Yep.
here. And literally, by the time you got done plowing it, it was melting. You were pushing water.
Yeah.
And then getting paid for it was always a challenge because they'd look out and there'd be no snow. And yeah.
How'd you do it this year, Mike? We were talking at dinner last night. You kind of changed how you approach the snow plowing this year.
So last year is when we officially sort of kind of became the contractor. The 3 years before that, we were subcontracting to learn it, and then we had a consultant help us and kind of get going. So last year, not this last year, but the year before, was an easy sell because the year before that we had our fourth snowiest winter ever. So, and people were just bombed with these unbelievable bills, and so I was selling contracts where it doesn't matter how much it snows, it's just this price.
This price will keep it clean.
Yeah, and on average in 10 years, it's all going to cost the same.
Right.
But at least it's going to be this. Now, if it doesn't snow, good for me. Does snow, bad for me. So anyway, last year was easier. Now this year then, this last season selling, it went from, this fourth to like hardly any snow.
Right.
So there weren't a lot of people like eager for that one. Because you think about short term.
Yeah.
So anyway, then we did a lot of combination stuff where what it was the plowing is unlimited, so you're going to pay this no matter how much it snows. But the salting or the de-icing, that we're going to charge you every time it happens. So if it doesn't snow very much, that bill will be lower. So that's what happened this year. So about I'd say 40-45% we're on the seasonal, and then about another 40% we're on what I just described, and then we have some people that are on. We have one that if it snows less than 40 inches, we're going to give them money back. If it's over 60, we're going to charge them more.
Okay.
We had one of those, and
That
then
seems fair.
Yeah, and then you're covered either way, kind of,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah. I mean, we both are really. And then there's the per event, that. But we don't have many of those.
And you got raw materials with the salting and de-icing stuff too,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like you got to charge
Yeah.
for
Right.
that deal.
Yep.
Does that stuff last, or is it just in the summertime?
Well, you try to time it, but no, we'll have some left over. We'll cover it with the tarp, and it's already covered, but we'll cover it again.
It's a challenge anytime you're dealing with a seasonal business with fluctuating. It's not like it's consistent. Like there's no consistency to it because you do have some years where you got just a ton of activity. no matter what it is, rain or snow. There's always in a year you got so much moisture that's going to hit the ground. It just what form does it hit the ground?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
In one form it runs down the drain, and the other form you get to push it off to the side and charge for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a question for you.
Are you going to go into, before you get into political, hit like RTD and services, all that kind of stuff?
Okay, so give us the lowdown then.
Yep.
So now we're starting into the deck, fence, and roof cleaning part of our business, and the washing parking garages. The fleet washing thing is more or less year-round, but temperatures always have an impact on that. So anyway, we'll literally start power washing and staining decks next week.
Next week you can already.
Yeah, we'll
What's
start
the temp
Tuesday.
have to be?
We just need it to be, if when we apply the stain, we want the stain to be in a temperature of 40 degrees or better than that, higher than that. So, yeah.
Okay, and roofs you can do pretty much
It's
as
the
long
same.
as you can get up on the roof.
Yeah,
really.
if you don't want it icy, that
Yeah.
would be bad.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Right.
Icy roof. All right, so you satisfied, Kelvin?
Yep, I think so.
How do they get a hold of you?
Roof2deck.com is the best way.
Okay.
You can call us, but roof2deck, if you can remember that.
Okay.
Roof2deck.com.
All right, so now you're dipping your toe into a political arena.
Mm-hmm.
In the last year or year before, whenever it was, you ran for State House.
House, right?
Okay, and now you want to be St. Paul mayor.
Okay, so here's kind of the story on that.
Okay.
Is that the House was an interesting. It was just an interesting activity.
Okay.
And I wanted to win. You always want to win.
Yeah.
But I was
Intro to
told
political experience.
you're not going to win.
Yeah.
There is nothing you can do. It doesn't matter how much money there's nothing you can win. You're not winning. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, it
it's
takes
like,
the
all
pressure
off,
off.
right? And my whole thing was I don't like unopposed. I really can't stand it when you go in to vote and there's only one choice, right?
Right.
I hate that. So that was my primary motivation, and it's kind of something. It'd be kind of something to experience, like the whole civic thing and the whole thing. So it was a good experience. And then last year, my landlord, who's awesome, comes to me to renegotiate my lease on my building. The first 10 years is up, so now it's another 5 or 10 or whatever. And he brings out some documentation like taxes to say, okay, here's why your rent is going from $17,000 to $22,000 a month May 1st, $5,000 a month increase. That's a big jump.
Yeah, it's a big jump.
Big jump. And actually, it's interesting that this morning, I called him a couple days ago. I said, hey, Brian, I want your opinion on the whole St. Paul thing. So he's coming into my office in an hour or so. We're going to talk more about it. So it's kind of funny that's happening when we're talking about this. But he's like, Mike, there are so many nonprofits buying properties in St. Paul, so many businesses moving out. It's going to get really bad. I mean, it's
What's
bad
that
now.
mean, though?
Taxes are going to go through the roof, right?
Oh, just because the nonprofits don't pay tax on it.
They don't pay taxes,
They don't pay real
right?
estate tax.
And those buildings man, you walk through a skyway, man, it's not good.
So you want to form an NGO and buy a building and then rent it?
Yeah,
rent
right.
it to yourself.
Yeah, that whole thing. So anyway, it's like, I should, you got to try. You got to do something.
Yeah.
And so I called, not a lot, but enough people, and nobody's calling me back. I finally talked to a guy, and he said, let's talk about it, and what my history and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, no, let's definitely do this. So last time I was just on my own, just kind of, you ask questions and you just do it on your own. This time there are people that are excited about the opportunity, and they're telling me, Mike, you could win this.
Oh.
So that's a whole different way to approach it, and that sounds a lot better.
So what do you do for resourcing then? When you're trying to put together a campaign like this, do you have the political party like behind you and advising you, or are you kind of on your own?
And then talk about political party too.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. The mayor of St. Paul, and I think it's the same with Minneapolis, is a nonpartisan thing. So it's not supported by.
It's not Democrat, not Republican.
Yeah, it's nonpartisan, right?
Okay.
Which I like that. So I'm running as an independent. And my thing is like, yeah, it's an independent, nonpartisan position. We're one St. Paul. We all have the same problem. I don't want to divide this into two halves. We got to turn this around. We got to lower tax. We have to lower taxes. And we have to lower crime. Lund's just closed. The one downtown St. Paul grocery store. And it's for a number of reasons. First they cut the hours back, and then there was a fire that they had to close the front of the building. That's not good when your grocery stores are closing.
Right.
Jan Marie was afraid to, her thing was this like, I'm just not going down there. And, you can't go through the front door anymore. You got to go through the back door. And she didn't feel comfortable. That's not good.
That's not good. So, okay, so you got crime and you got taxes, kind of like the same old things that we talk about for the last 100 years. Or are there compelling issues that St. Paul has? Because you could say crime and taxes to Minneapolis, crime and taxes to any Bloomington, any city.
Right.
Is there things that are specific to St. Paul that are not being addressed, that could be addressed, that are really St. Paul issues that you're aware of?
Well, the conversations I've had, and I've not had a lot, but I'm in the start of this whole process. The two things I hear the most are roads and the snow plowing.
Yeah.
The snow plowing.
Which St. Paul has been historically just horrible.
That's what everybody says.
Yep.
It's just really, really terrible.
The roads were always crappy and full of potholes and beat up. And
So the cycle is midterm?
I'm sorry?
The cycle is...
Well, it's this November.
Okay.
So it's not...
it is?
Yeah, so it's a very
standalone.
Very, very odd. And in fact, this is a 3-year term for this time around to get it onto the regular schedule.
Oh, okay.
Because not a lot of people show up for this one.
Why did it... Was it always been like this?
Yeah, it's always been like this. It's been a 2-year term, and this year they said, whoever they are, we want to line it up with everything else.
Okay.
Huh, interesting.
sense.
We'll
And
talk
then-
more about that, too, timing, and then, because obviously it's coming up.
Yeah, no, it's this November.
We got to go.
Good. Let's go.
Chop.
We're going to head out to break. We'll be right back with more Real Estate Chalk Talk. Mike Hilborn, Keith Hittner, Calvin Kamick. I'm Keith Hittner, Jr., and we'll be right back. 612-627-8000 is our phone number, and our website, hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com. Real Estate Chalk Talk. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. We're with Mike Hilborn, running for mayor of St. Paul. I want to say non-denominational, but that's not what it is.
Yeah.
That is not a political race as much as it is a personality race or person race. How do you differentiate yourself then from your opponent? If one opponent was a Democrat, one opponent was a Republican, third opponent was an independent, okay, I kind of get that because you have an idea of what their positions are and what their viewpoints would be, worldview would be. So in this case, how do you define yourself?
Well, in St. Paul, Minneapolis, of course, is very Democratic.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah.
So Melvin Carter is the current mayor. He's running for a third term.
All right.
And he tells everybody, I'm the endorsed candidate. I mean, because the party will still give an endorsement. It just doesn't mean anything. You're not going to get a D next to your name when you do the ballot thing, right? So and then there's other people running too that are also putting the big D in there.
Okay.
I'm running as an independent. Have to run as we gotta solve this problem together because you mentioned taxes. As always talked about, not really in St. Paul.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that, and this is not sustainable at all. We have to get our expenses under control.
And when you talk about expenses or you talk about taxes, you're talking about property taxes or are you talking about income tax, which is more...
Well, it's property taxes.
Property
taxes.
taxes.
Property taxes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there any impact because it is the capitals in St. Paul, a lot of government buildings in St. Paul, is the tax base lower because of those buildings and then it's higher for everyone else? Or what are you seeing as you compare St. Paul against Minneapolis?
That's a really good observation.
Well, what I've been told is that because St. Paul is the capital, that you have more nonprofits that want to buy in so that they're closer to the people. So it's all lobbying.
Closer
right?
to
That's
the funding.
Closer
to the funding.
So so we probably do have that. But we've had, and a guy did a search on this. He said that since between 20 and 2022, 500 businesses have left St. Paul.
Yeah, the argument used to be that because the capital was St. Paul and you had so many people coming to the capital that it was good for business because it created all this activity. Mm-hmm. So it was good for restaurants, it was good for all of that kind of activity in the downtown area. We were going to have this very vibrant downtown St. Paul. Mm-hmm. None of that's true.
Yeah,
None
I
of
love
that's
downtown St. Paul.
Yeah.
I pick it all day over Minneapolis. But
Well,
you know,
but it's
Yeah, so
it's
do I.
small. It's very
Smaller.
it's very small comparatively. So, and they don't have a lot. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there isn't a lot in downtown St. Paul.
Well, you got the Wild. So
Yeah.
the Wild is gigantic, and
Mm-hmm.
it supports so many restaurants around there. You got Rice Park, Mears Park. That's a very interesting thing. You got restaurants around those too. My opinion is that okay, we've got St. Paul. It's got light rail. It's got bus lines. It's got it's got everything.
It's got all the infrastructure.
It's close. St. Paul should be the least expensive or the most affordable place for a business to run, to have a business. And it's not. It's the opposite. We have like one of the highest sales taxes, and people then they start their business in Roseville, West St. Paul, to not be in St. Paul. Well, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse as more and more people. We've got all these empty buildings now. They're talking, and maybe it's a good idea. I don't know the details on it, but they're going to start converting them into housing.
But if nobody wants to live there, that's a problem.
And then but these were businesses that were in there.
Yeah.
Let's just make it a great place to run a business.
so sales tax, is it? And this is my ignorance, so I apologize. Is it different in St. Paul than it would be in Minneapolis than it would be in Woodbury?
So there's a statewide sales tax, and then every county and city gets to add on whatever they want to add on.
Really?
So St. Paul
Okay.
is almost 10.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then they've got a segment that's a transportation. So that's a quarter of a point,
Yep.
and then they've got
Okay.
all these little layers that they add on to it, and it adds up to a
So
lot.
so when you talk about seeing things through the prism of taxation as you run, right? You're seeing property taxes and sales tax, those two taxes then, right?
Yeah, well,
You
property
wanna-
taxes for
Is property
property
the
tax-
main one?
property tax is the one that hits you really hard as a business. I mean,
Right.
it just went up $5,000 in a month.
Right.
And somebody was commenting, well, I really don't care about taxes. It's like, okay, yeah, great, good for you. I'm happy about that. But there are people that do care, and then what they do is they leave.
Right.
And I've got friends that are starting to look for places in Florida and Tennessee that have zero state income tax.
Right.
And then that just keeps pulling people out. I mean, Minnesota now loses more people than come in. We're losing a representative. 2030, they say that Minnesota is going to lose a rep because the population of Minnesota is dropping.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so is California's. You've heard that, right?
Yep.
They're losing. New York will lose. Illinois will lose.
All the blue states.
But we're in that grouping.
Yes.
It's like, no. Come on, we all love it. I mean, Minnesota's awesome.
Right.
This should, let's make it so that people want to put an auto plant here. We used to have one. My dad worked at the Ford plant in Highland Park.
Yeah.
They pulled that out of there.
Right. Because they couldn't afford to stay here.
I'm sure there's more than one reason, but that's
It's economics.
part of it.
I mean, it's always economics.
Yeah. Does it make sense to build?
It doesn't make
build
sense
cars
to
here?
continue to operate here.
So what's your game plan going forward here? If the election's in November, what's the game plan right now? We're first part of April. What's the calendar like?
Well, okay, so it's it's talking to as many people as possible, and that's where I've got people helping me, right, to set up meetings and get me in front of people, because I don't know people other than basically you guys I know, but that's about it. So get me in front of people, talk to people, and then there'll be hopefully some debates and events that you can be a part of and all that stuff.
So what about the prep for all that? Because I know a little bit about enough to carry on a conversation, but I wouldn't want to get into a detailed debate with anybody over most things.
Probably a lot of study,
Probably
right?
a lot. Yeah. So what do you do about that? Number one. Number two, you got businesses to run. So now you're taking time away from running those businesses. Are you worried about the economic loss, the personal loss to you because of the diversion of your attention over to this political campaign?
I'm actually literally afraid of sleep.
Okay.
The problem with sleep, because you still got to get the work done.
Right.
You can't let your business fall apart at all. But I've got this interest. I've got an interesting story, and people like the story. So I've lived in St. Paul since I was in college, like the whole time. Raised my family in St. Paul and Highland Park. Raised 3 kids, 36, 34, 32. Started my business in St. Paul out of my garage, classic, right? My first office was up the hill on Snelling, and then my second one was on Energy Park Drive, and then my fourth is where I am now. We're a second chance employer. Not every employee that we have is a second chance, but a nice percentage. And we help guys get back on their feet that were either incarcerated or in recovery, and women too, but it's mostly men. And we start everybody at $25 an hour, and everybody gets health and dental if they want it, and everybody gets 401k. So it's a good story. It's like, okay, let's do more of this. And every one of those things that I just mentioned off are all good business. There's a business reason behind every one of those things. My turnover rate is almost nothing. These guys stick. They don't go. They don't bounce around. Anyway, let's do more of that.
So you must look at your own business then and say, I could save myself $10,000 a month if I moved from the address I'm at right now to an address over in Oakdale or in Woodbury or in South St. Paul or West St. Paul or somewhere else that's kind of the same-ish, but not in St. Paul.
Brian talked to me about it. I don't have enough. I don't have enough time to make that move, and I've invested a lot, even being in the building I've got with lighting and shops and bays and all this, all this kind of stuff. So for now, this is where we're going to stay for the next 5 years. But the other thing is it wasn't like, okay, Mike, your lease is going to go up 2% every year. No, it's not. It's going up 4%. 4%? Are you kidding me? So 20% higher 5 years from now.
Right.
Oh.
Right. And so either you grow your business, raise your prices, or go out of business.
Yeah.
Is really what that comes down to.
It does. It really does. And the more you tax people.
Or get active and make some changes, which is what
try to get involved and at least, and I look at it as like, okay, you know what? You've got an option here. Now you have an option. If you don't pick this one, then don't blame anybody but yourself.
Okay, so
you should vote for me.
You're essentially unknown, right? I mean, you've had your name out there a little bit.
Well, I'm on the radio quite a
time
bit with you guys.
Well, there's that. So that's probably enough. So then how do you go about being known? I mean, you can have your debates that nobody listens to because they're boring, and you can have, how do you
I would be very interested to listen to a debate.
I would too.
Would you?
You and the current mayor of.
Doesn't that sound? Somebody they asked the question like,
entertaining.
"Are you going to do a debate?"
Of
course I will.
Yeah.
Okay, our fourth core value in our company is grow or die. No, I'm trying it. There's nothing I won't try.
Okay.
And I'll give it my best shot, and maybe it won't be as good as somebody else.
We should try to arrange a debate here on the program.
We should.
That
We
would
should get
be
it in
interesting, wouldn't it? You can moderate.
What's the website where people can find some information about you?
Okay, so that would be great. And please, the last one, this one I need some cash.
Okay.
So
Website,
Hilborn4stpaul.com. Hilborn4stpaul.com.
Google it. It'll pop up. You can learn all about it, but you're going to hang out, so we'll talk a little bit more in the money segment with Calvin, Mike Hilborn, and the two Keiths. We'll be right back, 612-627-8000. Give us a call.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. This is the fourth segment, the big money segment of the program. 651-231-2500 for Calvin Kamick, ladies and gentlemen. 612-627-8000 for the Hittner Group. Love to have a chat with you. What do you got, Calvin?
We got a lot of stuff I want to hit in our segments. We have 10 minutes, 30 seconds, so we'll get going real quick. One of the interesting things you said in the first segment, talk about how many homes are coming soon. How much of the market's coming soon?
10% of the market is coming soon. So we got 5,600 homes on the market.
Okay.
10% of those are coming soon.
Wow.
600 homes coming soon.
So you think inventory levels are going to rise here pretty good here in the next month?
I think they will once we're past the spring break thing here, as we get into April and into May. You're going to see some inventory raising, probably peak out midsummer, like it always does.
Okay.
Good options out there.
Yeah, lots of good options.
Tell me about a listing for both of you guys. I always like to get one listing that you guys are excited about. I know you have a lot more than that, but give me one that you just want to highlight real quick in this segment, as it is the most watched segment of the show.
It is. New Eagan townhouse available. There's not a lot of those out there.
No, there's not.
Yeah, great one. You got to go to our website because you'll hear us, and it'll be live and active on our website, hittnergroup.com. Address in my deal here. Great place, but we're going to get a photo shoot done tomorrow on it.
What kind of price range are you thinking?
Oh, you're in the high twos. So
High
it's good
twos.
one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
one.
nice.
Yep.
2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
3 beds.
3-bedroom in the high twos. That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That's a great deal.
I have one 4739 Prairie Dunes Way in Eagan, lovely Eagan, $775,000. 4300,
Townhome.
yeah,
Townhome.
5-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,400 square feet. Picture perfect home.
Love the video you did on
Yeah.
that. Love how could people see that video? It's great. You did great editing.
You
on
can
that
actually just Google that address,
Okay.
and or go to hittnergroup.com. You can find your way there on the listings, and it's got some fun videos on there.
Yep.
3 of them on there actually
Yeah,
that are pretty
did a great
fun.
job. Talk about mortgage rates real quick. It's boring, which is okay.
Boring is okay.
Boring is okay. We had, we get some corrections every week. You got a big headline, but the market isn't moving that much. We're in the sixes now. 6.625 is where we locked a few. FHA a little bit lower than that. There's some changes on FHA. Non-permanent resident aliens are no longer going to be allowed to purchase through FHA. You can still purchase through Freddie Fannie. So we're going to see the effect of some of those things. There's a lot of chatter about how the current administration is going to treat a lot of the down payment assistance, the loan level price adjustments we talked about. Nobody understands that, but basically the way the system is now, if you have higher credit, you're supplementing lower credit.
Right. I think you're going to see that go away.
Yeah, they think some of that will go away.
Yeah.
They talk a lot about meritocracy,
Right.
if that's a word. But basically everything's based on your own merit,
Yeah.
none of this other stuff, just your merit. And so we'll see. I think we're going to see some changes, but I don't think we're getting in the way at all in terms of the market. In terms
I don't
of
either.
Rates or anything like that. We, Loan Depot continues to add some different lenders. We have a credit union that's part of our deal. So we have some really attractive jumbo arms. So somebody, if they're jumbo and they want like a 7-year arm, super attractive. Like we're talking 6%, high 5s, low 6s on jumbo money. That's really attractive right now. So we're fine. I think we're okay. I'd love to see it get down a little bit. I'd love to have a 5 sooner than later, but I don't know if we will this year. But being in the 6s, mid 6s,
Kind of lining up with Deuteronomy there. You got your 7-year.
Yep, 7-year.
At the 7th year, you get rid of all your debt.
Yeah, God, that'd
Perfect.
be great.
Would that be something?
I could use that. I'm going to think about that for a minute.
Okay.
This is fantastic.
Dwell in
No
that
kidding.
thought.
Yeah. So now I'm going to shift gears though, because we were talking earlier, Keith, about homes you're looking at with some clients right now. They're just beautiful, like 1.4, 1.5, $1.6 million homes. And the question you asked was, what makes you walk into a home and say, wow? And I'd love to hear what you look at. And I'll give you when I'm thinking, what would make me go, wow, walking into a home. And I wrote them down at coffee. Something different. Just as I'm walking through the home, I want to see something unique that's not common, right? I want countertops. I want to see how the countertops look, which is a weird thing. Countertops and cabinets. And then the last thing was, what's the walls? We talk about wainscoting, or on the ceiling having some really cool, maybe some tin in a bar area that's different. Wainscoting on the side, or just something unique that's not common in an ordinary house. But I'm curious what you guys think.
Keith, what do you think?
I've been looking at a lot of new construction, so we see, base properties that are completed new construction, and they don't have a lot of the accoutrements that the model homes do.
Mm-hmm.
And the model homes, of course, they're staged, and then they also have some of these additions. I think the fun stuff on the walls, for me, sets it out, and then little built-in spaces, I think, are cute and cool.
What do you mean
giant,
by that? What do you
not
mean by
giant built-in cabinetry, because people, I don't think people are really into that as much
I don't think so
anymore, especially in like $500,000-$600,000 homes. Maybe some more expensive properties, but
It becomes expected.
yeah, yep. But cute little bit. There's all kinds of spaces in the home where you can add a little something, and maybe using a wall in a living room to have some built-in shelving and stuff like that really
Okay.
sets it off. One thing I really don't like that I've seen some
Okay.
of is getting rid of cabinets and having exposed shelving.
Oh God, that's yeah.
Because who's really going to live in the house like you see it displayed?
Right.
All same cups, same bowls, color coordinated.
Yeah.
It's very unpractical.
Right.
Yep.
And I've seen some of that lately too, where they've removed cabinetry and then they just have kind of these floating shelf styles where you're keeping. It's like an open kitchen scenario. It's cute. I just don't think it's practical.
Right. People don't live that way.
People don't live that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same way. I think that that's a
What do
hu-
you see, Keith?
It is based on price point. So the higher the price points you get into, the more the expectation, in my mind, is of uniqueness.
Okay.
So when I walk into a high-price home, $1.5 million to $2 million home, which is up there, I expect to see something more than just a bigger box. And a lot of times that's all you see. It's a bigger box. They've got the same appliances that the smaller box had. They've got nice cabinets. They got all that, but it's just bigger, and that's a disappointment to me. Or you can walk into another house that is truly unique. Uniqueness of design, uniqueness of floor plan. Your sight lines have been well thought out, so your sight is being pulled through the property. Cleanliness in any price point is essential.
Okay.
I was in a couple of homes this week that were in that price point area, and the one I even commented to my client. I said, "This thing has been perfectly prepared for sale." I mean, it's like they went into the corner with Q-tips. It was so clean.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, they actually drove by it because it was on for coming soon for a while. So they drove by it just so they could see the grounds, and they had the cleaning trucks there. And he said it was like an army there of cleaners.
Wow.
In there cleaning and all that. All the paint was perfect. Everything was perfect.
Should have seen it before it was clean.
Yeah, I guess so. So from that standpoint, in any price point, if you want to do something, do yourself a favor, make sure it's clean. And then the other thing is paint. Paint is probably the least expensive thing that you can do, but it makes the whole property clean and fresh. And I'm talking about painting on the trim, all that window around the windows and all that. So when people look anywhere your eye's going to go, your eye's going to look outside. You want to see the views. Well, while you're looking outside, you're also looking at the casements and all of that.
Right.
And if they're sun beat and cracking and all that, it just gives you a kind of an image of not being
Should almost get your
maintained.
windows cleaned.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
If you're gonna
sure.
list out property.
Yeah.
I
And if you
didn't
don't want to
think
do
that.
it, there's companies out there, and it's cheap to have a window washing company come out and wash windows. It's really cost effective to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So those are the kind of things. But uniqueness of design, especially in that higher price point, you got curves, you got the wall treatments, the wainscoting, all those kinds of things that are architecturally pleasing. Very important in that upper bracket, because that's what defines that. Those houses are one-off houses.
Yep.
In most cases. So if you're going to try to create a one-off house, a one-off space, then make it unique.
Yep.
Don't make it look like it was just a bigger production built home.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks for that. So again, rates are good. We have some new lenders on some jumbo stuff, some ARM stuff that's in now that's looking a little bit more attractive. You're not picking up a ton, but a little bit, a little bit helps. So that we're doing some refinances, always some refinances kicking around. A lot of people are just trying to clean up their debt. There's a lot of short-term expensive debt out there that hasn't been addressed yet. Hopefully the administration hits some of that. But, you keep seeing this high, 27, 28, 29, percent interest. It just kills people. It just kills people. And it's really it's unfair. I mean,
Well, they're living beyond their means, though.
way
too.
beyond. Yep. So those things are going on, and we're busy. It's good. So Kelvin Kaming, Loan Depot, 651-231-2500.
What do you think?
I think so. I think we're running out
Is
of
that
time.
it? Is that a show? That's a show. We did a show.
Mike Hilborn. Hilborn, what is it?
Hilborn for St. Paul.
Hilborn for St. Paul. Go online, check it out. Got a bunch of position papers on there, I bet.
Really, I got 3.
Yeah,
Just
3.
let's focus. When your ship is sinking, you don't worry about
Right.
the napkins, right? We got to stop the ship from sinking. That's taxes and crime.
Okay. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week.